We're live.
Going to order the April 14th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. We have roll call, please.
Mr. Blathers is absent. Ms. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Nail?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Snyder?
Here.
You have a motion to excuse.
We have a motion to excuse Mr. Blathers from attendance.
Motion to excuse Mr. Blathers.
So move.
I second.
All right, any dissent? Excused. We have one thing on the agenda today. We have a appeals hearing for order of condemnation for 6055 Stover Avenue and demolition. We have a motion to set the agenda and adopt it.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so before we move on to the appeals hearing, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 3rd, 2025 and March 11th?
And we have no minutes this evening. We'll get them next time.
Do we have a motion to proceed without minutes from the last 2 meetings?
You don't need to make a motion.
We'll just do it anyway. All right, so we'll move on to new business. Rob,
I think it's
presenting.
the well, actually, I think it's the applicant because they've filed their appeal. So it's Michael, I'm sorry, but Keith, if you would like to stand in front of the microphone over here.
Yeah, certainly.
And you can present your case.
Sure. Is it okay?
It'll pick you up.
Sorry.
It's got you.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay, very good.
Sure.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission, village representatives. My name is Michael Keene.
Could you state the company you're with and your address, please?
Certainly, Paramount Holdings. Do not have our address in front of me, but I can.
Is it 2717 North Highway 80,
That's it. Yes.
Suite 200, Ogden, Utah,
That's it.
It's on the record.
84404?
Thank you. I just wanted to start with a little bit of background of who I am and who Paramount Holdings is. Again, my name is Michael Keene. I was born and raised Long Island, New York. I'm the son of an electrician. Went to public schools. I think it was about 20 years ago. I was sitting in a small apartment trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I remember thinking, if I could start with a why, it would be, I want to do something where I get to leave communities better than I found them. And with that, I ended up applying to graduate school at Hunter College, City University of New York, where I earned a master's of urban planning. I'm currently an AICP certified planner, and I've been practicing urban planning for almost 2 decades now. My expertise are in land use zoning and environmental review, mostly to support the use and development of land, but I've worked on dozens of master plans aimed at community revitalization and neighborhood improvement. It's been a great privilege of mine to be part of design and development teams whose collaborations have resulted in the approval or construction of thousands of units of permanently affordable housing in the United States. So neighborhood revitalization and community improvement is a passion of mine, and it's something I've dedicated my career to. I come before you tonight as president of Paramount Holdings Group. We're a privately owned real estate investing and development company. We focus on the acquisition, rehabilitation, and management of small multifamily properties in Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, as well as Columbia, South Carolina. As of today, we own 8 multifamily properties totaling 32 units, and we're under contract on 2 properties that will add an additional 12 units to our portfolio. If it pleases the commission and members of the village, I'd like to just provide a summary of our involvement with 6055 Stover Avenue. starting with our purchase of the property and subsequent events that led us to submit this appeal for the condemnation order. On January 31st, 2025, Paramount closed on the property at 6055 Silver Avenue. At the time of purchase, we were aware that the property was uninhabited and in need of repair and rehabilitation. We also became generally knowledgeable about this neighborhood block and saw an opportunity to potentially acquire other distressed or challenged properties, rehabilitate them, identify qualified tenants, and provide safe and quality living spaces. This goal aligns with Paramount's mission statement, but it would have to start with 6055 Silver Avenue. So following the January 31st closing, we immediately commenced the rehab work. In just 2 weeks, we retained a licensed general contractor, Ray Construction, defined our vision and scope of work for the property, and got to work. Clean out of the building was completed on February 21st, and only 4 days later, interior demolition was completed. The following week, architectural drawings were completed, and on March 12th, our permit applications were filed with Hamilton County. I also want to note that during this time, we put in place a comprehensive building security program, including securing all windows and entryways, and hiring a security guard to walk the property twice weekly. The overall rehab project schedule was estimated at 12 to 14 weeks, meaning we expected to have the rehab units back online by this June. It was only days after filing our permit application that we received the condemnation order in a letter from the village dated March 5th, 2025. Through our property manager, Kelly Williams, we contacted the village by phone to request additional information on this order. We also immediately paused the rehab work. Based on conversations with the village, we learned that the village had taken previous actions against the prior owner dating back to at least January 2024, including issuance of a violation notice on January 17th, 2024, and ultimately a condemnation order transmitted to the prior owner in letters dated February 18th, 2025 and April 1st, 2024. So it's important to emphasize here that none of the actions taken by the village against the previous owner of 6055 Silver Avenue were disclosed to Paramount Holdings during the due diligence period leading up to our acquisition of the property. We engaged in diligent research, as we do on all our properties, to ensure that there were no pending liens, violations, or condemnation or foreclosure actions against the property, and we performed a standard title search. None of these actions resulted in a condemnation order being revealed to us. And further, and of particular concern to us, the previous owner did not make us aware directly of the active condemnation order. The March 5th, 2025 condemnation letter from the village to Paramount Holdings states that the structure at 6055 Silver is so deteriorated, quote, so deteriorated and dilapidated and has become so out of repair as to be dangerous, unsafe, unsanitary, and otherwise unfit for human habitation, for occupancy, such that it is unreasonable to repair the structure, end quote. While Paramount acknowledges the need for remediation, we respectfully submit that repairing the structure is not unreasonable but entirely feasible. This is not a matter of opinion or that of an overly optimistic investor, but a fact. As part of this application to appeal, we submitted as supplemental materials 2 documents. The first, a structural assessment prepared by AO Engineers and dated April 9th, 2025, and the second, a letter from Jeff Bray of Bray Construction, the licensed general contractor who was retained for the rehab work. If you read the structural assessment, I think you'll agree that it's conclusive in its findings that the building occupying the property at 6055 Silver Avenue is structurally sound. The report plainly states that there are, quote, no obvious or major interior wall cracks observed that would typically indicate foundation displacement, floor sag, or inadequate header support. And in general, the foundation appears to be in good condition with no obvious cracking that would suggest active or recent differential foundation settlement. The report provides additional findings substantiating that this building is structurally sound and not in need of demolition. Mr. Bray's letter arrives at the same conclusion as that of the structural assessment. So in conclusion, for these reasons, we respectfully request that the Planning Commission grant this appeal and allow Paramount Holdings to continue with the rehabilitation of 6055 Silver Avenue. This property is feasible to repair, and progress has already been made in addressing the identified violations. Our immediate objective is to revitalize 6055 Silver and bring quality housing to Gulf Manor. But our longer-term goal here would be to launch a block-wide improvement initiative on Stover Avenue. We believe that this would not only align with our mission as investors dedicated to neighborhood revitalization, but we believe it would support the Village of Gulf Manor's housing goals and commitment to a safe and clean community. To this end, Paramount is fully committed to working with the village to make a long-term investment in the future of Stover Avenue. Commissioners, on behalf of Paramount Holdings Group, I thank you for granting us this hearing and for your thoughtful consideration of this application to appeal the condemnation letter. Thank you.
Does any commissioners have questions? Yeah.
I seem to recall that there were portions of the foundation that were viewable by the structural engineer. Am I recalling that correctly?
The report does say that, yes.
Others?
I think that's what I read, if that was correct, it would be the right or the rear end of the building. It was not accessible at the time of the review of the structural engineer.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It wasn't accessible to the structural engineer,
That's
that's why.
what you said.
And I'm just saying, it's probably it's just not or reported.
I would have to ask the structural engineer that, but, if we're able to get access to those areas that they couldn't access, who would make that effort.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, if that was something that would make me feel better. But yeah, I was just curious, I didn't know who was all out there. Bray was out there as well with structural engineer to review.
I believe it was just one person on the
Just
site, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, he called me from the site that morning, let me know he was able to get into the building.
Was there any work done on inspection for mold and anything that would make it unsafe for people in terms of I guess this building has been vacant for years. The doors, windows have been broken out. So I imagine it was exposed to weather and it wasn't climate controlled. I would think mold, mildew, things of that nature would be of concern.
Yeah, I'll second that. That was, you provided the, like the structural assessments but I'm more concerned about like the safety, health and environment stuff. Like, I don't know what's back there, like as far as contamination, no rats, roaches, bed bugs, mold and mildew would fall under that too. 'Cause, you can make it look pretty, but that doesn't mean people will feel sick when they move in there.
Do we have pictures of the interior conditions?
Mr. Putoff is going to present his findings once the applicant
Okay.
is done. Okay, you can wait, Jim. We'll talk to you in a minute. Okay.
Did have a question. So with the review, our understanding that had architects get involved, you've worked through the process of design, the scope of limitations. Is that including ripping out most of the interior drywall, or to what extent is the scope, I guess?
So yes, I have the architectural drawings as an attachment to the appeals letter. They're in PDF format, but they were too large to print.
Right.
So unfortunately, the general contractor was unable to attend this evening. I feel more comfortable to be able to speak to the, on a technical level to exactly what the rehab work was. But we also included an itemized scope of work that we developed with the contractor. That was part of our contract with scope of work and fees.
Right, and I'm assuming with getting a building permit and everything allotted through, or even certificate of occupancy through Hamilton County, all that would have to be accounted for would be anything of remediation of mold, asbestos, rodents, at least a program to it, I would assume.
You're saying that you're assuming that once you gut it all out, remove all the drywall, some of the
Before
concern
they
that
can
would have.
actually, yeah,
Okay,
before they can allow anybody to reoccupy the space, they would have to get all that.
that would make me feel better, I knew
Right.
that they were doing that, okay.
That's what I was feeling like. I can understand the concern beyond being open that long.
Sure. So I would say that if there are any gaps in the scope of work that were of concern to the village, I hope this comes across in our appeals letter, that, you know, we take a collaborative approach to this. We would want full transparency. We would, as a matter of fact, we would want regular visits from the appropriate village representatives during the rehab work to make certain that we're addressing any code violations and bringing this building to a state of good repair. And
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Putoff?
So there's a long history here, and we can start with October 5th, 22. You could open that up. The file up above it. That's just a letter of violation notice. This one, up, no, up. That one's. And you can scroll through these pictures. This showed this is when we realized we're having problems keeping the building secure, and we knew there was multiple people coming in and out of the building. And this was October 5th, 22. And you can see that this is before we boarded the building up.
Could you describe what we're seeing?
So this is a kind of a general overview of the condition that it was in. There was always trash, tires, there was having an outlet that close to a water source is an electrical violation. This was what we were constantly dealing with was trash. The owner was not receptive at all. So that's kind of when I started getting involved with this. And if you could.
Is it occupied at this time?
There was one occupant that we were working on getting out. That's why I wasn't condemned immediately. She had needed time to find somewhere else to go, and she had kids. So actually that landing was right outside her apartment. It was filthy conditions. And then go back. Let's go to November 23rd. When the building was trying to be secured, this is what we started running into. Again, constant trash in the area. And there was mold and mildew in there. We're not sure what that was on the wall. The kitchen was pretty much just abandoned, and the refrigerator was full of food, and there was no power to the building.
Is this the unit that was occupied?
So somebody was living there with no power.
No, it's that they just walked away from it, and once they walked away, things really just started to deteriorate.
Mr. Putoff, could you detail the various issues with the property? Talk about mold, and you talked about the garbage, things like that. What other issues were there with the property?
The boiler room was clearly, it was not operable for heat. None of the doors were secured. You can see some, we try to secure them, they would kick them in. We actually found dead cats in that apartment. At least two. We didn't hang around and look for more. And we kept trying to get some compliance out of the previous owner, and clearly we couldn't.
And again, if you kind of narrate what we're seeing.
Yeah, so that was what the previous residents left, and the building was being broken into. We're assuming it was kids. And there's evidence they kicked the door into that apartment and were doing God knows what there. And that's an outside looking at the apartment. So go back and then go to May. Some pictures there. And clearly the outside continues to deteriorate, grass not being cut, garbage in the area. We had boarded the property up, and you can see that didn't last. The property was constantly being broken into, along with 2 others that are boarded up down there. I think 2 or 3 times the village paid to have it boarded up, and this is what we always came back to. That was the backyard. There is a old carport that needs to be tore down. Constant windows being broken into. I believe that's the utility room where the boiler is. And again, we just couldn't secure it.
How long was it left open?
Almost 3
Doors and
years.
windows were.
2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we kept going down there and paying. It just got to where we were throwing good money after bad. So if you want to go back,
Is that door on the south elevation, assuming mid of the building?
yeah,
Okay. That's the chimney.
no, these might be something to say. Keep going down. There's so many files on this. Yeah, this is gonna be the same thing. So we can get out of that. The rest that I have are the orders that I've written on the property, the letters that were sent. The original letter was April 1st of 2024. The condemnation order sent to the previous owner. And that's what they clearly did not disclose to you. This building and the 2 others have become clearly a public nuisance and an eyesore for the village.
And there's condemnation on the other 2 buildings, correct?
Correct.
Rob, do condemnation orders remove the land recognition?
Yes, yes, and you'll note in the memo I sent to the members of the commission, this appeal is somewhat of a courtesy, because once the previous owner was notified and did not appeal, did not do anything, subsequent appeals are, I guess, kind of at our discretion. And it felt as if it was appropriate under these circumstances to honor the appeal, though I don't really know that we necessarily had to. And I've discussed that with the applicant. I think we sent 2 condemnation notices to the previous owner, did we not?
I believe so. And then once we realized it sold is when I sent the
Yeah.
order to you.
And that was more, again, kind of to put you on notice of the problem you've got. But yes, they do run with the land, and if you sell it, it does not matter. Any other questions of Mr. Clough?
Sounds like a lot of this stuff, though, I don't wanna say it's just purely cosmetic, but it's fixable. Like, we could just have a list of like, this is what needs to be, like the windows being, they replace the windows.
It was occupied, it would be a different
Yeah, it would be
story.
different if it was somebody in there too, I would think. Like, trash, pick up all the trash, I mean, as long as the soil isn't like, has toxic waste is what I would be worried about.
A lot of things are fixable.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
But even to the structure, I'm still struggling to see like even settling issues or anything around like masonry, say tuck point or anything at the corners where you'll typically see a lot of shifting or diagonal of the brick. And I remember there was a talk about it in the structure report, but it appears that one had been painted over the crack where the chimney had maybe rotated. But it appears that it's been a while since that happened. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to figure out what structure would have condemned it.
there wasn't necessarily anything structurally that condemned it. It's a public nuisance.
Yeah, just a nuisance.
I
Yeah.
was just curious, I didn't
And,
understand.
the building right next to it, there was attempted arson in it, because we can't keep that building closed either.
So yeah, that's the risk. Like we can make this one, habitable, but who's to say that with the two buildings next to it, some of that doesn't carry over. But I would hope that it goes away once it's cleaned up and habitable, but it might even stop the other ones. We don't know.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Parker?
Where does the village stand legally? Because I know there's been many of apartments. Demo, I don't know if it's the same reasoning or if, of course, on Vera, I know there's, so I don't know, and I know there's some sort of ordinance in terms of, we have 4 families.
We operate under the International Property Maintenance Code, which is we've adopted that as our code. And Mr. Putoff uses that to condemn the properties, consumer notice and things like that. With regard to the other properties, they all vary. I mean, to say that there's one thing that caused them to be condemned is not accurate. Okay, but we have to go through the same procedure. We have to provide notice opportunity early, so before we do this. So that's why I came. Did I answer your question?
Kind of.
So can I give the village's perspective on this?
You can do, yeah, sure, go ahead.
So this has been an ongoing problem for the village as long as I've been around. I joined council in 2013. I've been village administrator for 8 years. The resources that this area has taken for police, building code enforcement, fire services has been extraordinary. We even, at one point in time, fenced the area to keep people from going back there and dumping trash. That area needs a transformative remake to make it an asset to the village and also to spur development in the village. There is an ordinance on our books that states that once a property is a certain percentage gone, we do not allow that property to go back as a multifamily. Council can make that decision to do a variance if we have a developer who is interested in doing a nice development back in that area. There are 4 other buildings that are currently occupied that continue to be an issue for us. If you go down there now, there's probably garbage all over the place. There's probably garbage cans sitting out. My code enforcement official continuously is down there to enforce those kinds of things, and we can't control it. We're a very small government here, and it's an issue of what we want to continue seeing in that particular area. Council is working towards a strategic plan to identify areas of the community that need to be redeveloped. Whether that particular area with the 3 buildings that are currently vacant being raised, and then if we can find a developer who will help us acquire the other 4 buildings that are currently occupied to turn that into a complete neighborhood with new housing, whether that be affordable housing or some other type of development. That's something the council will need to make a decision on. But we believe that fixing this building as it sits there today is just more of the same. And the problems that we have will continue that we have with the other 4 buildings that are there. The village just does not have the resources to continue to deal with this problem, which is why we have recommended and are working towards council condemning and raising that property.
Well, we already have an order for it to be raised. That's why
But we are currently securing funding to actually raise this property.
raised.
So,
Funding to demolish the buildings.
Yes.
to the buildings that have been declared.
Right. There's 3 that are under condemnation orders. You own one of them, and we have 2 others.
So there's 3. So actually, our CDEP funding for 25, 26, and 27 has been allocated to raising those buildings.
Mr. King, do you have any questions for Mr. Clerk?
The photos that you showed, those were all taken while the previous owner owned it. There was not multiple owners going back.
Oh, no, that was just for the previous owner.
Just the previous owner,
Yes.
MS Joy. I believe it was.
Yes.
I don't have any questions. May I offer a few statements?
I think so. It's, again, we're relatively informal, so
Also residents who wish to speak.
I know we're going to do that last.
Um, When I see those photos, I see the future, a new future. We, as a group of investors and myself as an urban planner, lean into these types of projects. Because, as I said in the beginning, my life's purpose is to revitalize communities. Seems to me if you're looking for a developer, an investor to revitalize this block, one that sees the larger picture and not just his or her single property would be an optimal developer to consider. And respectfully submit that's who Paramount Holdings is. We've actually already started doing due diligence on the other properties to see who the owners are and if there's an opportunity to acquire those. So again, as I hope I hope it's made clear in the application to appeal that we're very interested in working with the village to bring this block back to life. So, I hope we can make that happen together.
I suppose the school service noticed that there's condemnation orders on those two buildings.
Do you hear what you said?
I did, I'm so sorry.
The other two,
The other two buildings, there's condemnation orders.
Yes, right. So if there's an opportunity that we can open up a conversation on how, we may be able to work with you and potentially acquire those, we would welcome that.
Yeah, there's members of the community here. Mr. King, if you don't mind stepping aside, to give them an opportunity to speak if they would like.
Yes. Good evening, my name is Laverna Vieira, to live at 2265 Roselle Avenue. We backed into our property, got us into that. The whole place is a garbage dump. Pictures that he showed, the side that's occupied. One of the ladies that lived there, you guys talk about pests. I'm surprised we're not overrun by rats in that section. We're like the stepchild of the village. And I do respectfully say that Golf Manor could do more. I know I've talked to Mr. Putoff before. I've talked to you before. You told me that it was part of the city of Cincinnati. I've lived there since 1980 and it's evolved into a garbage dump. Nobody comes down. It's horrible. But we got when we came here, we had fire service, we had police service, we had garbage service. The village is just the only positive, the real positive, we're good neighbors and we're centrally located. But that part of Golf Manor is absolutely despicable. And there's nothing being done. Nobody cares about the people. I don't know where the other people who should be here and complaining. Because I don't know, I understand it's Section 8. Everybody needs someplace to live, a decent, someplace to live. There's too many homeless people. And I applaud this gentleman for what he wants to do, but this has gone on for so long. They promised that, like I said, we've been there for 45 years in August, and it has gone to crap, just absolute crap. There's mattresses down there. The village has put up a fence. The fence got knocked over. They came back to put up the fence. It is money, money after money, absolute useless money. I'm watching like, what are we doing here? The police are always back there. There's at least two times a week. These people use the ambulance service. We got disinvited from the last one, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna get disinvited from this one because there's just, it appears that's the section of Golf Manor that uses all of the services. But like I said, I just feel like we're not getting anything for our tax dollars. Can you guys do something about the area? It's not, I mean, like I said, I applaud him for what he wants to do, but it's gone down so far. They promised light industrial, that was spoken of at one time. I'm like, that might be a good idea. There's so much traffic that goes back there. You wonder what goes on. I pray to God they're not back there cooking meth. That's what I pray, because we're all sunk. But hey, if you don't believe me, go back. There's mattresses, the garbage cans. Rumpke needs to give them new garbage cans. The garbage people came and picked the garbage cans because they don't have the lids and they use the lift. It's horrible. So people next door who just paid $220,000 for their home said they're gonna put up bamboo. I said, can you put up some on my side too? So I don't have to look at that every day. I'm out there every day picking up garbage. It's unbearable, absolutely unbearable. We bought a place in Vegas and we go for the whole winter. So we don't, oh, that's the worst time probably to go because there ain't too much to look at, but yeah. But yeah, like I said, I don't know. I'm at the end of my rope, and nobody seems to care about that part of the village. They run the stop sign there's just not enough of a police presence either for that section because that's you by your own admission. That's where all the problems and all your revenue is going. So anybody got any ideas? Can you think about it? Can you help us this out? All right. Thank you very much for your time.
We appreciate you speaking.
And I do actually have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are you in favor of raising the buildings?
I'm quite in favor of raising them. And I know we all know there was a overdose, a heroin overdose last year. A young woman and her baby were shot at. I've never heard any conclusion to that. It's just, I mean, it's terrible.
Sir, would you?
No.
He's a good man. she said it all.
After 48 years, he knows nothing.
I'd like to say something. When I was passing out flyers for Golf Manor and went into the buildings are despicable. So when you say you're going to take care of them, when you're talking about mold and mildew, I think that's almost impossible. Not impossible, but it's just a challenge of getting it out of there for people to live in a safe environment. I agree. I think they should be demolished. I've been here for like over 30 years, and that part of Golf Manor has always been a problem. It has nothing to do with you. But if you're going to appeal again, bring what your properties look like where you are, because I find that people who are purchasing properties from without the city, who don't live within the city, who don't have an investment within the city, they don't do a good job in maintaining their properties. So if I see a visual picture of your property someplace else, knowing that you've taken care of it and there haven't been any complaints against your company, Paramount Holdings, then that would be something to consider. But I think everything you're saying is great, but actually when it comes to actually putting your money where your mouth is, that seems to be a different. And there are a lot of communities that wouldn't even entertain this conversation right now in Cincinnati itself. So I don't know how you found that property or why you decided to purchase that property, but I think that it should be demolished. I have a home here, and I don't want the Golf Manor to continue to go down. Like she's saying, we've had so many other things here that are not here anymore. So this is going to cause a deterioration, I feel, of our community. So erecting one building when you have the other ones that are being demolished, yeah, I don't really see how you're going to make that work. I mean, I don't know if you're really going to put the investment in to pull the mold and mildew out of the building. My daughter wanted to purchase a building down here. She's a doctor, but when she had the contractor come in, he said it would cost her a fortune to do the building just because of the chemicals in it. So I don't know if you are really planning to put that much money into the building. So it sounds great, but I don't really know if it's realistic. And that's all.
So you said you are in favor of demolishing it?
Yeah,
And you said you
absolutely.
are or not?
I am very
Okay.
much in favor.
Okay.
And when I took this kid there, she was lost. She had a disability. I don't know if this family you're talking about, but when I went in that building, it was deplorable. I could not believe somebody was living there. It was water all on the bottom floor, trash in the hallways. And the little girl couldn't tell me where she wasn't a little girl, she was a person with a disability. And then, I just started knocking on doors that were inhabitable. There were people there. And then I knocked on the one and the guy came out and said, "Where have you been?" But the mother wasn't there. So the housing was horrific. I couldn't believe it was that building. People were living in it. Unbelievable. That's what I saw.
Mr. Bowler, isn't there also an issue with egress from the street to those buildings?
Well, we don't own the streets, actually. It's kind of an odd circumstance where the streets are owned still by, I can't remember her name. It's,
Securely.
yeah, it's a little different kind of
Elizabeth.
name, yeah. But she owns the streets. They were never accepted by the village. Whoever did the construction, they were never accepted by the village. So they're actually private owned streets. So
Streets.
So we're not maintaining the street.
Street or streets?
I believe it's
Street, it's that block of stove.
over. Mhm.
That's a privately owned street. So snow removal.
I don't know if the village does it as a matter of courtesy,
It's
but
private
yeah,
property.
they probably wouldn't do it unless it's adopted.
Yeah, typically, unless it's, as you said, it's accepted where you just don't do it.
The utilities are not being, or the streets, the actual catch basins, the MSD structure is not maintained by the village. That's whoever personally owns that. And I believe there's no right of way given from those properties to the actual street.
Well, no, not technically, although it would be difficult for anyone. And Ms. Zaguli is in the ether. I don't think anyone knows where she is. So, virtually, probably at some point, the city is gonna have to foreclose on. Yes, yeah.
I'm happy to give you an
I
opportunity.
was gonna say, I'm Vicki Meadows. I'm Cincinnati
To the
resident.
microphone, please. State your name and your address.
Victoria Meadows, 6730 Palmetto Street, 45227. I'm Mr. Keene's property manager in Cincinnati. I could speak to the quality of his buildings and what kind of landlord he is and kind of investor he is. As a property manager in Cincinnati, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of these out-of-state investors. A lot of them are not great. That's absolutely true. Paramount definitely is different. They really genuinely are committed to revitalizing communities. I've never had to argue with him about pricing properties inappropriately for median household income. Never had to argue with him about paying bills on time. He's a responsible property owner. I think they would be a great partner if you want to redevelop this street. I think you should be talking to them because they will do a good job, and I think the village will benefit from their partnership. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
How many properties do you manage for Paramount in Cincinnati?
I just one in Pleasant Ridge on Wetland, and then Stover when it's done.
What sort of property is it? Is it a
It's
multi-family?
a 4-unit building right off the business district in Pleasant Ridge. No, they're good. They don't ask silly questions like what is the bare minimum standard to turn a unit. I know they got a lower estimate to turn Stover. I think that they're committed to spend, I think it's $250,000 on that one building. I know they got a lower estimate. They took the higher one. They never asked me, what is the bare minimum I have to do for this unit? How can I get more rent? They didn't ask those questions. They asked about the community. They're different. They really are, genuinely. I've been doing this since 1993. They're different.
to your property manager in the building that you live in, that they own?
No,
Okay.
no, I work for Keller Williams. I manage close to 300 properties in Cincinnati.
But you're not living in the property? You're not
No,
living in
I'm
any of
not.
the properties that they own?
No, I'm not. But I'm actually getting photography of one of the units there. I'm happy to provide it to you if you'd like to see what it looks like.
Any other members have questions?
Will I close the public hearing?
Yeah. Is there a motion to close the public hearing and move into executive session?
As a quasi judicial body, under the Public Meetings Act, you have the right to go into executive session, as does most bodies to deliberate. So that has to be done by way of motion and then second.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, if you all wouldn't mind, if you are not a member of the commission, please step outside.
We're going to end the stream.